Coach Chambers. He ends up having to resign. If he was still the coach today, could you guys have still stayed together?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
I had no intentions of leaving, honestly.
What's going on today? I'm the host, actually Schumaker, and joining me today is Wood Midseason Award nomination for the top 25 watch list, two-time Big 12 Newcomer of the Week, one-time Big 12 Player of the Week. He's a former Penn State star and the man that's helped lead Iowa State to a 14-3 start. Izaiah Brockington, appreciate you coming on today, man.
Appreciate you having me, my guy.
Absolutely, man. Well, we've got a lot to get into today, a lot of different topics, and go through this entire journey and story that you have created for yourself. But for starters, your nickname Everyday Zay, what's the story behind that?
That started last year, during the whole COVID outbreak when everybody had to get tested every single day. We had to come in, we had to get tested, and then we would either have a day off or we'd have practice like later in the day. But I worked out after every single test because we had like a time frame that we could come in. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna get up early and I'll just work out every day too. So yeah, the GA started calling me that, because it was, some days when it wasn't many people in there or like nobody had come in, and I was just like I was in there every single day.
And I know that this year has lessened in terms of protocol a ton for you guys. I know there's still been some because of the recent outbreaks or whatnot, but how have you just enjoyed kind of stepping away from, I know, pretty much the everyday testing and mask constant? Like, how have you enjoyed just kind of stepping away and getting a little bit of a break from what it was last year?
Oh man, it's been great. It's been, it's just been more like convenient, and it just helps me, like, knowing that we, are vaccinated and knowing that we don't need to go through all that kind of stuff. It just gives me more certainty going into every day for the season, because it was like it was constantly on my mind. Like last year, like, what if somebody's sick today? What if somebody shuts us down? What if somebody on the other team, like, what if it's not even our fault that they get canceled? Because like I love to play, obviously. So like every single game that we had scheduled, like I wanted to play it. So it's definitely less stressful this year for sure.
No doubt. Well, we're going to get into this year and a whole lot of stuff later on, but I want people to get to know your story and really the journey that you've taken now becoming the guy that we know today that's going to be an all-conference type player, a potential player of the year candidate as well this year. So we had all the way back. You originally were born in Maryland and you grew up there in Philly. Take us to that aspect a little bit.
Yeah, so I was born in Towson, Maryland,
Mm-hmm.
and then around 2 months old or so, 3 months old, we moved to Philly, and I lived there throughout really my entire life. So yeah, I'm from Philly, born and raised in Philly, and I feel like that brand of basketball really rubbed off on me growing up. As a child, I loved uh, being young, going to the park and stuff like that. And even when I was young, it was like I wasn't the biggest. I really didn't have my growth spurt until like sophomore year in high school. So I wasn't really the biggest kid, but like I wanted to play with like anybody, like bigger, stronger, like older. And like some people would like laugh at me at first or like not take me serious until we got out. Like they finally gave me a chance, and I'd get out on the court and I'd show them. And just that mentality of whoever you are, I'm going at you, was really big. Like you really had to have that mentality just growing up playing in Philly, really. So I mean, it was that, and then the fact that my dad played and he was known around Philly and stuff like that. It was like, guys were like, oh, okay, like you're Twan's son. Like we know we know what your dad did. Like, you could like, they assumed that I could play. So it was definitely like, just living up to that for sure. That was a big motivating factor too.
And there comes with two aspects to that. Like when you have a dad that has accomplished what he was, he was a player of the year in his conference back when he played professionally as well. That obviously comes with the aspect of one, you get to kind of have an experience of this is how you go through the brand of basketball. This is how you carry yourself as an athlete on and off the court. This is what you do to get to this level, et cetera. But also you said it has the pressure too, in a sense where people know that and you kind of have expectations in a sense to follow him too. So how did you deal with those aspects growing up?
Yeah, it was definitely crazy. Like just going around, I would always go to the gym with him when he would be like at league games and stuff like that. And people would talk to me and tell me stories about how good he was and all that. And, it was just crazy to know that, that he did all that and that, I was essentially like next up because like at a young age, I had a love for basketball. So I would want to be better than him, honestly. So it was like, it was just, I had set high goals for myself for basketball, like really early. So it was just, living up to that and trying to be better than him. And as far as like pressure and everything, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, really, it was just, it was pressure, like trying to live up to that, but it was also like nobody critiqued me like harder growing up than him. So it wasn't like, outside pressure or anything. Like he was always pushing me. He was always, telling me what I needed to do and like trying to get me better growing up. So, and it really wasn't like pressure from him because he always let me know that like, whenever I'm not having fun playing basketball, then like I can be done with it. But it was like, it was just, yeah, coming from him all the time. It was never really pressure, but like he was always my hardest critic.
I have to imagine you guys did play one-on-one growing up. I don't know if you guys still do today, but did you just like be able to get to a point where you start beating him on one-on-one games?
So he like, yeah, we played a lot when I was like younger and stuff, and I could never beat him. Um, Probably around my sophomore year in high school. Sophomore year in high school, like we would go to these like open runs sometimes on the weekends. Like it was him and his like friends and stuff, all like around his age, like 40s or like 35, 30. So like so I was like playing and usually I was on his team, but like I remember one specific time, like I wasn't on his team and I was guarding him and he tried to hit me with like his move, like the move that he uses on everybody. And it was like, it's like he bumps you and then spins and like fades.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to do it to me and I blocked it and I went down the other, dunked it. And everybody in the gym was like going crazy, like, oh. But like from then on in my mind, I was like, all right, yeah, I could definitely beat my dad. But he like, once I got to like high school, like he won't play me anymore. So he could stay undefeated, really.
I know a lot of guys typically play some different sports growing up, but I know some guys, especially in like the New York, Philadelphia area, like it's basketball from day one. Was that your case, or did you ever explore other sports growing up?
It was definitely basketball from day one, but when
Mhm.
I was around 8 or 9, I played football. I played football for a couple years. I was pretty good. I was fast. So
Mhm.
like I played football for probably 3 years. So the first 2 years was great. I was like 7 or 8, and so I was like getting by. I was the running back, and I was just running around everybody. And then I remember I took a year off. I had went my fifth when I was in 5th grade. I took a year off. I tried to come back in 6th grade, and like I was still recognized some guys that I had played against and stuff like that. But one thing that I noticed, I was like, everybody's really getting like bigger, and I wasn't. And them hits started to hurt a little bit more. And I
Mhm.
started dreading going to practice and doing those drills just a little bit more. And I came back and they had, obviously found a new running back, and he was huge and he was more their style, like run through you kind of thing. And I'd never lower my shoulder on somebody if you paid me to. So like, I was like, okay, so that's not my position anymore. And then I just kind of floated around and like, I didn't want to be on defense. So it like maybe 2 games into the season, I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna just stick to basketball for now. So I stuck to basketball from then on, really. But yeah, football was the only thing I tried for a little bit there. I thought about baseball, but by the time I kind of got serious about trying it, I was like, kids are throwing like 70 miles per hour or whatever now. So I was like, I was like, I'm not even ready for that. Yeah.
We all know that there's one aspect of your game. I mean, you have a lot of great things you bring to the team, but one thing you've always pretty much had that we've seen how it plays off is your athleticism, your dunks, being able to throw down for as long as highlight plays have been coming out for you now. So have you always been that athletic? Like, has balance just come naturally to you? Did that all of a sudden hit you at one point in life, or when did the balance like start coming to you?
So yeah, as a kid, I was like always more athletic. I was always like fast, and I always had like more bounce than a lot of guys. Like I was like, when I was real young, I was like touching the backboard and stuff before a lot of people. Like I could jump for sure. I just didn't really have the size at the time. But yeah, I was always pretty athletic. I feel like that was just genetics and stuff. My After my freshman year, my of high school, my sophomore year, like the summer going into my sophomore year, I really wanted to dunk. And so I remember like right in the beginning of that summer, I was going like 3-4 times a week for a couple months, like to the gym. I would go right after school. I'd go to the Y and I would do like leg presses on the machine and the calf raise machine and just different exercises. And it was straight leg day. I did like curls on my arms, but like I just really wanted to dunk because I didn't play varsity my freshman year. I said, man, if I come back dunking, then they gotta like play me. So I was like, I did it for like 2 months. I got my first dunk like ever. Like I finally started like dunking semi consistently, and I stopped working on my legs. And then from then on, I just kind of was jumping all the time and just trying to push my limit and my legs. Whenever I dunked, I'd throw the ball in the air, try to go chase it and stuff like that. So then for like all of high school, like I was for that rest of high school, I was doing good. I was dunking, pretty athletic. And then the summer after my senior year, when I played AAU one more time, like I just turned 18, and I was like noticing like that I started getting like really high. So like then that's when like I was with We Are One, and they really like pushed me to like embrace like being an athletic guy and stuff like that. Like I had came in that summer really trying to like, oh, I guess everybody wants to see me prove that I could shoot or I could do this or that. But like what got me going is driving to the basket, dunking, being athletic. So they really wanted me to show that. And then I noticed like I was getting really high. I started like 360 windmilling, and I started getting East Bays. And like, yeah, that bounce came like at like 18, and I had no idea where that came from. But yeah, then I've had pretty good bounce since then. I'm a little older now, but yeah.
What's your favorite dunk you ever thrown down in a game?
Probably one of the Sports Center ones from last year. I'd say the one against Nebraska because it was a lob. That was a fun one. And then the Northwestern one was cool, but I didn't know that one looked good. Like I didn't know that would be Sports Center, but I knew the lob that I caught. I knew that one was going to be Sports Center.
We go back though. You were mentioning how you obviously grew up in Philadelphia and you have the pickup games, and that's something that's pretty famous. I know not all areas of the world have that aspect, and that is something that we know in New York, especially boroughs like Brooklyn, all of them have it. Philly
Mhm.
has it. Some areas of the DMV have it, but it's that street ball atmosphere. And it's a lot different basketball than obviously this is a typical going to the YMCA even type basketball. So take us to that a little bit. Like, what was that like just growing up and playing in that type of environment?
Um, that type of environment, it's kind of it's like rougher
Mhm.
than playing organized basketball. Obviously, there's fouls that you can't call or you're gonna be labeled soft. My dad always told me growing up that like you really don't like need to call fouls unless somebody like really is like grabbing you or like really roughing. Like you really, I just never really called fouls like growing up. But I feel like that made me tougher. I felt like I kind of gave myself no excuses on that whole aspect of the game, and I feel like it helped me for sure. But yeah, it's just rougher. You don't really call the same fouls. You got guys out there that it's a mix. You got guys like me that really play basketball, and you got the dude who plays in a rec league and he's all right. And then you got the guy who is probably a drug dealer and he's only there on the weekends and he doesn't care about anybody or their future or whatever like that. So it's like, the fact that everybody's coming out there and it gets really competitive, like no matter who you are. And, the way that you gotta be able to take trash talk and give it back to them or just show them with your play. I feel like you kind of had to be mentally strong as well as physically.
I read a story about you when I think it was either one of your first times playing or the 3-on-3 game, and that kind of was the time that took you into realizing how good you could be. I know you basically turned to 1-on-3, which and the article was talking about. So walk us through that. Like, was that your first time actually getting on that court playing with them, or what was kind of the story behind that?
No, so it was my local court. I went there all the time. It was my elementary school. Yeah, so I was probably fifth grade or something. And like I remember I just went up there and I got put on the team with two guys. Like I knew them. Like I knew that they weren't like really good or whatever. But yeah, it was like figuring that I had to, was gonna have to do it on myself. But I actually like ended up doing it, like just being competitive and like really like demanding the ball from my teammates and capitalizing when the other team missed and stuff like that. And it was just like, yeah, that day that like I played so well and we ended up winning. And like I really walked away from that night being like really thinking like, man, I'm really the best player at that park now. Cause now I'll come to the park and everybody's like, oh, Zay's here. Like now I'm getting picked up as soon as I get there. Like they're kicking people off their team for me. So now people are like knowing like, oh man, like Zay's tough, like, pick him up. Like, so I remember that day. It was great. It was a great walk back home. I just couldn't stop smoking.
What was your favorite street ball memory you created throughout your life? Like, what was the favorite game, favorite moment? Like, take us to what was your favorite game you ever played street ball wise?
Hmm. Mm, I had a good amount of them. I mean, really, like that moment was like the most significant. I feel like once I was getting older and I started dunking and going to the park and stuff, then it was fun, like going with my friends and like just chilling out, like when I was warming up, and then you know pulling out like a lob or like pulling out a dunk on the fast break or something, and everybody like going like ooh, like just drawing like oohs and ahs from like the local crowd and stuff like that. It was always fun, like to make highlight plays and stuff like that at the park. But yeah, nothing like specific.
If you could make your dream starting five to go out there and play a street ball game right now, that not necessarily might even be the best players you could think of from Philly, but like just the five guys that could handle the Philadelphia street ball type of game, who would be your 5-man starting lineup?
Oh man. I'd say my cousin Ed. He's athletic, my height, and he'll like really lock up on defense. He's got a little shot. Um, he's like as competitive as me, so I just like playing with him. I'd probably say Mark Rodriguez. He was another dude from Northeast Philly. Like me and him were like really close, and he's like one of the hardest workers I know. He could really shoot, so I like having him. I'd probably say, hmm, I'd probably say my man's Fred, from Archbishop Ryan. He was our center. He played a lot my senior year. He was like the best shot blocker in the state. Always catching my lobs and stuff like that. So that was fun. And then, who would run the point? I might pick. I'd probably pick another. Mm, yeah, from high school. My senior year, we had our point guard was Amin Bryant, and he was just a dog. Like he was a dude that like was with whatever, and like he was competitive, and he like got to the bucket, went real hard, always rebounded, and he has some like he dropped dimes too. So yeah, I'd say that's a good five that I bring to a park for sure.
Have you been able to go back and play any games since you've been in college?
Since I've been in college, no, I haven't really been to the park. Like I'll go to like open runs with like trainers and stuff I know, or like I've been back to like LA Fitness, but like outside, man, outside of hurts my knees more, man. So I don't go there as much.
Now, like you mentioned, though, I mean, growing up in Philly, like, there is a lot of stuff that people could go down path-wise. Like, obviously, you've chosen to stay true to your faith. You've chosen to basketball your whole career, but there obviously are a lot of different obstacles. And that's the same for anyone wherever you grow up. But obviously, there's a lot of different things that you could go down path-wise in Philly. So how did you stay away from that? Like, how did you just say, okay, all this is going around, I'm sure there were temptations for you to go down that different paths too, but what kept you locked in on basketball, your faith, and kind of staying true to who you are?
Um, yeah, it was definitely noticeable. Just growing up, like everybody, at a point was innocent, and you got guys that you played on rec league teams with, and you played with around the neighborhood, and everybody at first, everybody's just playing. You start going to the park, and like, there's a bunch of y'all, and y'all just all want to play just for the fun of the game, for the love of the game,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see guys like not want to come play as much. They start, sitting over on the bleachers or sitting over there just chilling. And then you start to smell weed coming from over that way, or like, you start seeing like girls from around the way over there and stuff like that, or just like alcohol stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like, stuff that I had been told like by my parents, really, told about, and like just knew that I had to, I really should stay away from it, is really stuff that wasn't going to help me ultimately reach my goals in life. Um, and, it was just like really my parents over and over, like for years, just like reinforcing it all the time, reinforcing every day to stay focused and to, stay on the right path. Because, they just like, there was times when I would get frustrated and stuff. Like I did just want to be like a normal kid, as I called it. Like sometimes I'd be like, yeah, like why can't I go here or there? Just like everybody else. But they always stress like you're not everybody else. Like what you're doing right now, and like what you want to do, what you hope to accomplish, like those kids aren't doing that. And those kids have no chance of doing that. So like it's just a different way that you have to carry yourself, and a different way that you had to live, honestly. So it took me till I was like older, really understanding that. And like, especially now, like seeing how far I've come, and like, I just really appreciate how my parents really, were stricter, and how they kept me from doing all that, how that really kept me focused, and how I'm really seeing the benefits of it. It's like, I really appreciate them for that. So I just continue to listen to them, and have faith in God. And it's been working. It's been paying off for sure.
And that's huge because I know that for some people that hear your name now, especially this season, people know, okay, you're an all-American type candidate player, you're a superstar player. But obviously going back to high school, where as we were about to get into, like you weren't coming out as a top five star. You weren't coming out as a top 100 recruit. Like you didn't have offers, and we're getting into that whole recruiting situation a little bit, but you weren't necessarily having that. I feel like some guys that come from areas that are highly ranked, like they know, okay, I'm going to these schools, I'm heavy recruit, I know how to stay out. But when you're not, you obviously weren't having the easiest path to becoming who you are today through high school. So how did you just keep your head up during that path, saying, okay, I'm going to stay locked in, even though it's not happening. I'm not getting all the offers and attention I probably want and deserve. I'm still going to stay locked in on my dream.
Yeah. It was hard. It was definitely hard. Just like getting older, and, seeing on social media and stuff like that, like everybody posting about the offers that they were getting and stuff like that. And they were like, getting more and more big time. And like, that was like my dream. And it was like hard to see. And it was like, there was times when I was really discouraged, and times when I doubted, like, man, like, is all this for nothing? Or, am I ever gonna be able to reach that level? Or like, am I just not that guy? Honestly, like I saw people like do that. Like, there were people that, swore that they were this and that. And I was like, oh, like they're really not, like, but they just won't like admit it. And I started thinking, like, am I one of those guys who's like not that good and just won't admit it? So I mean, but it was just keeping my head down, and having faith really that my time would come. Um, you know, all those workouts, my stepdad had came into my life probably around sixth grade, fifth grade, and like he really helped me a lot with my work ethic, as far as like, really getting up early with me, before school some days, and, going to the park to work out, or, going to the local rec center, and getting workouts and stuff like that. Just like trusting that through those years, and him, encouraging me, like, you know, telling me to trust my work, and telling me that it would all pay off. And my dad always, saying like, it's going to be okay. Stay the course. Like, you're going to be better than all of these guys that are highly recruited right now. And things like that, looking up my name and seeing that I was like a 2-star and stuff like that. I had always, when you're young, you know, you're dreaming of 5 stars, 4 stars, stuff like that. But yeah, like seeing 2 stars kind of hurt. Then when I was hitting like my junior year and the summer going into my senior year, like I had 3 offers. Like I had NJIT,
Mm-hmm.
Holy Cross, and Coppin State. And Coppin State was just because my dad went there. So
Mm-hmm.
it was like only having those 3 offers, and like feeling like I could play at a higher level, or like, yeah, just feeling like I could do, like, that I could play, yeah, at a higher level, really. But I committed to NJIT right before my senior season, and I was just kind of like, I was like, all right, like I'm a work there. I'll show people what I can do, and I'll just keep my head down, keep working when I'm there, and we'll what happens. But it was like going throughout that senior season and playing at a high level throughout that year, and then seeing, like the all city team comes out and it's Kentucky, Villanova, Rhode Island, Villanova, NJIT. And I couldn't help but think, like, bro, there's something wrong here. Like, there's a disconnect. But like, it was just really believing in myself. And, when I decommitted, it was just like, it was hard because, NJIT did believe in me. NJIT was the first place to offer me at all. So, it was kind of hard, but I had to believe in myself and I had to believe in my own dream. I felt like I committed to them, and it was because, like, I was like scared that I wouldn't, get anything else, or that somebody would take my spot there and that I wouldn't have that offer anymore. So it was like, just, yeah, I really wanted to secure a spot. And like, my parents had like told me, like, yo, you don't want, somebody else to come along and like take that offer and stuff like that. So I had committed there and I was like content with it, but like ultimately not happy with it or like satisfied with it. So yeah, decommitting from there and then playing AAU one more season. I actually planned on going to prep school for a year because I graduated my senior year. I was still 17. Like, I was always a year older than people. A year younger than people in my grade anyway. So it was like, it had made sense to me. So yeah, I just really wanted to try to pursue playing at a higher level for sure. So it was like, just the dream, like just keeping my eyes on the dream is really what kept me motivated, and just kind of believing in myself, betting on myself really. So that's what kept me going for sure.
So the young Izaiah, when you were first coming into high school then at Archbishop Ryan, what was your goals and dreams? Like, did you expect to become a player that you are today right away out of high school? Did you think you just wanted to play in college? Do you think you were even going to make it to college coming into your freshman year? Like, where was your mindset heading into high school?
Uh, Heading into high school, I was like, really, I expected, I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to play as a freshman. I'll work my way up like midseason, work my way up to like starting and stuff like that. And then I'll just like, I'll take off from there. Really before high school, like the goal was really always like go to the league, like go to the NBA. But that freshman year, like having to play JV and stuff was like, it really like brought me down like to earth. Like, it really brought me down a notch for sure. And I feel like I had started to doubt myself a little bit because I did have a lot of goals. Like, I went there and they hadn't won a championship. Like, they never won a Catholic League championship or a state championship before. So that was a goal. Like, I was like, all right, cool. I want to bring a championship to this school. I want to score 1,000 points. And there was one number retired up there. I forget what the number was, but it was Joe Zaglinski. So like, it was one number retired. So I was like, yeah, I want to get my number retired here. So not playing as a freshman, I don't know, like in my mind, like, were those dreams like gone? Were like those dreams like never happened? So yeah, after my freshman year, I was just like, I was just ready to show, what I could do in the summer. Like, we had summer workouts and practices and stuff like that. And I was just ready to go, especially once I started dunking. I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to start dunking, and then I'm going to get better at other stuff, and I'm going to just build on that. But they won't take me serious until I dunk. So then I started dunking, and then I was just working on just my IQ of the game for sure, and like working on my jump shot, things like that. And it was very ugly back then, but I had found ways to make it go in. So that's all I was thinking. So then I remember the very first like team tournament we went to my sophomore year. I came off the bench, like I wasn't starting. A couple minutes in, I came in and like immediately like made an impact. Like I immediately scored like 7 points or something. And I started the next half and that was it. Like I started the rest of my high school career. But it was just, it was like definitely coming in. I expected like, the whole freshman phenom thing. And when that didn't work out, I just knew I had to make it happen the second year. And I really wanted to prove myself. And I felt like after my sophomore year, like coming onto the scene and out of nowhere like that and making second team all Catholic, I felt like that was pretty good. Like I felt like that was a good start. So, just I knew that I wanted to be a leader that junior year and then just keep growing from there.
And to set the scene up a little bit better for those listening, the division and area you're playing in for your typical teams you're going up against is not just a typical division in any other state. Like you have many of the top players that we now see in the NBA, college basketball playing there. The one Lonnie Walker, obviously, I know you guys battled there for a couple of years. Kind of Walker's that, like he's obviously, we know he's on the Spurs, he's doing what he did, first round pick, but he's not the only one. So kind of take us through him and just the other top guys that you like going up against in that division.
Yeah. So I mean, it was definitely a battle every night. I mean, even the lower teams in the Philadelphia Catholic League like were better than most teams that you would find in the state, really. Like so that was like the league in the state. Like if you wanted to be seen and if you wanted to go against, college like level Division I level talent every night, playing against guys like Dada Cosby Roundtree and Quade Green and like Fresh Kimball, playing against guys like Tyree Pickron and Colin Gillespie. And like just stuff like that, like playing against guys like that every night, playing against St. Joseph's and like Chris Clover and and whatever random D1 players that they had on LaSalle. Like LaSalle always found a way to get them tall, lanky white guys, and they were always good. But yeah, just like playing in a league like that, was huge. Playing against Lamar and Tone and Nas Bostic at Roman, like Paul Newman at Roman, like stuff like that. Like the top teams in that league, like always had like multiple Division I guys and guys that were really gonna play at the next level. So like it was really good for my development, I feel, to be able to play against guys like that. It was not like, playing in high school and you're coasting, averaging 25 a game, and you have this inflated sense of yourself, so like I feel like it pushes you to work harder, and it just gives you a taste of what guys at the next level will be able to do. It just gets you ready, gets you more competitive.
When you look back at yourself at that point, obviously you've grown a ton since you were in high school, but do you feel like at that point in time, you just were extremely underrated? Like you should have been a top 100 recruit, top 50 recruit, like you were just as good as some of those guys you're going up against? Or was it so like you still were underrated, you should have maybe got higher offers, but the past 3-4 years now in college has truly been the turning point of your career?
Yeah. I go back and I look at those videos sometimes, and yeah, I do feel like I was underrated. I feel like I still could have got, higher like offers. Like nobody in the city like offered me like at all. And I was like, sheesh, bruh. But it was but really like I knew I wasn't really Power Five like level
Mhm.
at high schooler. And I feel like another thing that really hurt me, my recruitment, honestly, I was really not really bad, but like I was bad at AAU.
Mm.
But like it was like just coming, I would play like really well in high school, like my sophomore year when I made second team.
Mhm.
I came into AAU, and it was like the it was just kind of different the way that AAU was played.
Mhm.
Just I don't know if you want to say selfishness. I don't know. The fact that it was more guys on the team other than me trying to be aggressive. And
Yeah.
I felt I would kind of just sometimes like fade to the background while other people like did their thing, or because we were like playing other guys who were good, sometimes like I would just like not try to do a bunch or do all I could do. So it was like it was just yeah, I felt like sometimes I got like intimidated on those stages, and I would just be passive, honestly, like letting other guys on my team, do their thing. But yeah, I didn't really get good at like AAU or all-star games until like later, probably like the summer after my junior year and like the summer after my senior year for sure. But yeah, like young, like ninth, 10th grade, like I wasn't really good in AAU. Like you would think it was like a completely different player from how I was at school.
And you already walked us through your whole process to a certain extent with recruiting, but you said you commit to NJIT originally, then decommit. You finished up high school career then with 1,200 over 1,200 points. But heading then into that next phase, like you said, a lot of guys, even today now, a lot of guys will reclass and be a year older than a lot of guys. Like they'll be a year older, like 19 years old graduating. You being
Mhm.
a younger kid, like one of the younger kids in the class, still one of the younger kids in the country when you look at grade wise, did you ever consider reclassing another way? Like, did you ever consider throughout middle school, high school, like saying, okay, I'm gonna wait another year just so I can get to the right age? And some of these guys are like 2 years even older than me in my same class.
Yeah, so I mean, really, in elementary school and middle school, like one thing my parents always had me do, they like had me play up, like especially like in the local leagues and stuff like that. Like I would always like try to play up and push myself that way and stuff like that. So playing against older guys, like even when I was in my own grade, guys were older than me. Like it wasn't really anything new or shocking,
Mm-hmm.
and it just we kind of took the attitude of, oh, like I don't need to do any of that or whatever to, I'm good, without doing all that. I don't need a whole extra year and stuff like that. So it really hadn't crossed my mind until like senior year. Um, and just like really sitting back and really thinking like right now, would another year of development and working out and getting stronger and smarter, like would that really be able to help me? Would that be able to push me to a level where I could start getting looks and offers from some of the schools that I, wanted? So yeah, coming up, like I knew I was younger, but like I kind of just tried to take like I don't really care. Like I'm in this grade, I'm gonna stay in this grade. So yeah, after my senior year, when I had planned on going to prep school, that was gonna be like my reclass. Like, yeah, all right, cool. I'm gonna take that extra year and just and develop that year. But yeah, that summer, I was talking to my AAU coach, James Johns. He's an assistant coach at Fairfield now, I believe. He
Yep.
just coached the team final UIBL champions last year. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, we were talking about schools and things like that. And he was like, man, he said, prep school is cool and all that. But like, if you get like an offer that you really like, just go to school. Like, if you get an offer from a level that you feel like you can, that is good. And like that you feel like you can compete at, just, don't even go to prep school, just go to school. So then like later in the summer, St. Bonaventure and everything had offered me, and he had like encouraged me. He was like, yeah, man, like he was like that, like that's, and the A10 is like a really like a good league, and like they have good guards come out of there. So like he was encouraging me to go and stuff like that. So yeah, I had ended up committing without going to prep school. So I was still young for a freshman and still young in my grade.
So has Archbishop Ryan retired jersey yet, or is that in the works, or where does that stand with that yet?
Yeah, so they haven't officially retired my jersey yet, but my head coach, my old head coach there, like he's there and he said, yeah, nobody's gonna wear it. So yeah, nobody's worn my number yet, but it hasn't been officially retired.
So you think it's going to happen sometime soon? I mean, I think you've probably done a little bit more than most players from that school have come out. So
yeah, so like once I'm like out of college, like yeah, so probably within like the next year or two for sure.
Now, like you said, you do that final year of AAU, you end up committing to St. Bonaventure. There were some other schools that kind of came in the mix, though, too. I think they probably were more the highest one that did. But were there any other schools that you had any interest in? Like, did you like any of those schools? I think Yale had some interest in you or offered you. I think some other schools did. Like, did you have any interest in anyone else besides St. Bonaventure?
They were like, I had interest, but the thing was the other places, like the other higher places like that, like the Ivy League schools and stuff, like that's all it ever ended up being was interest. Like even my junior and senior year in high school, like, boy, I swear I was the king of interest, boy. I had interest from everybody, but like no offers, like UPenn, Princeton, Yale, LaSalle, like Lafayette. And it was just like a bunch of like interest. Like, so it was like the probably highest level that offered me at that time was Bonaventure. And then yeah, I had interest from other places. And then I had offers, but they were all like in, they were like, yeah, they were just like, some were even in the same league as NJIT. And I was like, yeah, let me not decommit from NJIT and then commit to the same conference, like stuff like that. But yeah, Bonaventure, yeah, that A10 offer was that was my only one from the A10.
Knowing how recruiting works for some guys, I know some schools might say, if you do the post-grad year or reclass for whatever, we want you then. Was that the case for some of those schools, or was it just they just had interest and that's really all they talked to you about?
They were like, a lot of the places that had hit me up, they were interested in me like that year. There were like, Bonaventure had told me that the offer was like if I wanted to come immediately or after that prep year. They want me either way. But yeah, like I feel like when they would talk to my like AAU coach, like he was like, yeah, like he's ready, like he could come there and play now. So like a lot of the schools that were reaching out were like, yeah, we want you to come this year. And then yeah, so it was yeah, it wasn't like I didn't have any like offers like, hey, like if you play this prep year, then you'll have an offer from us and stuff like that. Yeah.
For you, it had to be a little difficult too, because every year we see about one or two guys. This year, it's the Kai Ziegler out there at Tennessee, where the whole kind of situation story with you, where like you said, you play your final AAU season, then you go through a final little recruiting process for about a month or two, and then you get on campus later than anyone else does. You get out there, I believe it was August, something like that, for on campus. For freshmen, they usually get out there beginning of June to start getting accustomed to the campus and all. And that's not easy just to get there 2-3 months before tip off for the season. So How was that for you? Like, how did you get on campus, get accustomed to the team that quickly?
Yeah, so it like coming in, I had missed summer session, and like the summer session, like before like college starts and everything, like that's when a lot of the strengthening and a lot of the conditioning stuff is like done. I had no idea what that kind of stuff was. Like I came in, but I was already pretty athletic. I came in and I was like a pretty good athlete anyway, had all right strength. But like, yeah, I came in and I had no idea really what they went through. But like that kind of stuff definitely does build camaraderie and build teams. But the guys, they accepted me regardless. I felt like those were some of the coolest guys that I had ever met. Like that year, this like, yeah, all the guys were cool, and it was like kind of a lot of guys with similar stories, guys that were under recruited for one reason or another, and we all just kind of joined together in Olean, New York, up there at a tiny little campus up
Mm-hmm.
there. And we were all just trying to make it out, just trying to make it to the next level. So I mean, it maybe it did affect the camaraderie, but like not as much as you might think.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I kind of gained the guys' respect because there's this 2 mile, this like 2 mile run right before like practices and stuff start,
Mm-hmm.
and like they do it every year, and yeah, you have to like the guards have to run the 2 miles in like 12 minutes 30 seconds, and then the bigs have their own like time. But thing is, like, you have to make it, or else you got to come back like every other morning until you make it. And I was like not very excited for it because I had ran track. Oh yeah, that's another sport I tried track for one day in high school. That first practice, I was like, yeah, this is not for me. I'm used to being like the fastest guy on the team. Why are all these people that don't even look like they should be faster than me? Like, why are they moving faster? So I was immediately discouraged from that. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to stick on the court. I don't know what they got going on over here. This speed is different. So it was like, I was like, yeah, I also wasn't like enjoying running like that. Like I could run, but like it wasn't something I had fun doing. So I was like, all right, I got to make this run on the first time because I was like, I feel like this run is going to suck. So I'm not trying to keep coming back and doing this. So then the coaches told me like just try to keep up with the older guys. They've done this for years and stuff like that. And yeah, I made the run on my first try, and it was cool. And like I felt like, yeah, I just remember passing out on the ground immediately after I crossed the finish line. But I mean, the guys were like, all right, cool. Like, he passed that. So I felt like that was kind of like the initiation. So I felt like they were kind of cool with me like after that. And then we just moved forward.
When you commit to St. Bonaventure, did you commit like thinking like, okay, this is going to be my home for my entire college career. This is where I want to spend my entire career at? Or was it something that said, okay, this is somewhere where I want to make the best of it, but ultimately I want to use this as a propel to help me get to a higher stage in my career?
Yeah. So, I mean, I went there and I was like, I felt like there were like good teams and good guards, like especially the ones on my team, like Jalen Adams. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like, everybody was talking about how he was gonna go to the league and stuff like that, and I feel like with that being like the biggest goal, like the ultimate goal, like I was like I could go here and like make it out of here. Like this team's always near the top in the league, and they've gone to the tournament and stuff like that. So like I went there and I was like, yeah, I could do good. This freshman year I'll learn behind the older guards, and then I'll step up and be really good here and like in this league and stuff like that. The thing is, like, right after my freshman season, everybody had their meetings, their team meetings with coach and stuff like that. And it was like the I don't know. I felt like the energy that like the head coach had when he recruited me there, it had like changed somewhat like in that end of the year meeting. And it went from like, oh yeah, you're gonna step up, after sitting behind these guys, you're gonna step up and we're gonna, need you and you're gonna like play. It went to like, oh well, I don't know if you can step up, blah blah. And I didn't know if he was pulling like a reverse psychology and being so I was supposed to be like, no, I'll show you, blah blah. So like I was like, yeah, that's probably what I was like, yeah, that's probably what he's doing. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna work, and I'll be ready. And then you know how like on social media and on like message boards, like the people that a school is recruiting, like the people that a school is recruiting, like come up,
Mm.
and it was just like it was already it was kind of hard being 6 hours from home, just like knowing how much I always wanted to like have my family at my games and like be able to go home. So that was kind of new. I mean, obviously it was my freshman year, so it was a bit of an adjustment, but like I was feeling like a little homesick. Like I definitely like being home, but then like seeing that what was being recruited at that school was like grad transfer guards. And the one thing about our coach, like he really likes experience. Like he really likes like
Mm.
older guys. And I was like, oh man, is he like recruiting like just a bunch of grad transfer guards and then he's gonna hit me with the oh, you're still too young kind of thing. So then it was like a combination of homesick and seeing that like he might just push me to the wayside for more older guys. Like it was disappointing because like I felt like in the time that I was given, or most of the time, like when I had got in, I had done positive things. I had some really good games, like 20 on TCU. I had like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, maybe like 15 or so against Vermont. And like I felt like, I felt like I was going to be able to step up and be somebody that he could rely on, those coming years. And it was just, it was just like disappointing to kind of feel like, oh, maybe he like wasn't playing. Maybe he really doesn't believe in me anymore.
Mm.
So that it was like sitting and thinking about that. And that just kind of, I don't know, I was just wanting to be around my family more and stuff like that. And I had ended up entering the transfer portal, and I didn't really know like where I was going to end up, but like I felt like I wouldn't go down. Like I felt like I would be at a place that you know was a good level or whatever. So yeah, that was really just like betting on myself and having faith, that I had at least showed potential in that season for schools to come and like recruit me and things like that.
Before we get into obviously Penn State a little bit, but that season, like you said, there was one guy that did get to sit behind, learn, and he is now in the NBA, and that's Jalen Adams. So you got to walk us through that because I feel like that's something that's huge for so many players when you hear guys that have now become a star later on in their career, like yourself. I mean, obviously the one done freaks of nature, like those guys are what they are, but every other guy that we see that's a college star today, they have the similar story. Like, would they sit behind a NBA bound or at least a very, very good college player for at least a year? So how big was that for you to kind of see the way Jalen approached the day-to-day work and in a way a pro mentality, to see the way he played? What did you learn from him throughout that year?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I took from him is like the work, that it takes to be a consistent player. Like, I remember like just watching him work out, and I'm like, man, he never misses, like, or stuff like that, or just like on off days he was always in there, or before practice he was working out, and then after practice he'd get more shots up and stuff like that. Just seeing like just like what I thought was like working out, or what I thought was like work ethic, was like he had like another level, and like he had like ratcheted up like a whole nother notch. So that was the biggest thing. I was just like, man, like, it's a lot of work to be as hard, I mean, to be as good and as consistent as he is at the college level. So I feel like that was like the biggest thing that I noticed for sure.
As you mentioned too, you didn't get too much run because of, like you said, Coach Smith loves to play. His vet says, I think everyone sees, especially this year at this team. And he ends up, like you said, bringing in some guys. Obviously, the recruits ends up being guys like Kyle Lofton and Don Welch, who now are becoming guys on this year's team. But
They're bringing in, I was like, that's crazy. That's crazy. But yeah, he ended up only bringing in freshmen, and I was like, oh, geez. Well, all right. And then the whole fan base was like saying that I was like running from like the competition of like Kyle and Dominic Welch. And like, I liked Kyle. I really liked him. Like, I knew he was like a good player and stuff like that. I actually wanted to play alongside Kyle for sure. But yeah, they were saying I was like running from Dominic Welch and everything like that. And I still remember that. And I was like mad because like you can't really be on Twitter going back and forth with people. So yeah.
so right when you did put your name in the portal, then, like you said, you wanted to at least go up. And like you said, there wasn't too many minutes for you where you had like a great stat line overall, but you had the flashes. The TCU one, the Emerald Classic, obviously was a big one, 15, then also against Vermont. So you go in the portal then. What was that experience like? We know you go to Penn State at the end of the day, but who else was seriously showing interest in you? Who else were you considering? Like, what was that? What was that transfer portal process like?
Yeah. So, I mean, I knew that I wanted to go somewhere that was like closer to home. So I looked at like Delaware, and Penn State and Maryland, and it was just like, you know, schools like that were closer, and it was like Penn State was the first ones like that I went on a visit to, and I just remember going there, and it was like being really comfortable because I knew guys there already. Like, I had grown up with Lamar and Tone and stuff like that. And I felt like when I was asking them about the school and I was asking them about Coach and how he was, like, the fact that we had grown up together, like, I knew they wouldn't like lie to me about how he was or like about what the school was like and stuff like that. So it was like I had a level of comfortability with them specifically, like right off the bat. And then just like seeing like, oh man, like this is the Big Ten. Like, you're playing against, Michigan, Michigan State, Rutgers, Purdue, Illinois, Indiana, and stuff like that. Like, those were like huge names, like, playing against Ohio State. And I was like, oh man, like, I was like, I would like, just even getting my foot in the door at a place like this, I know I could, I just had faith that I could work my way up in the rotation from wherever I started. And, I felt like that year that I had to sit out would be the year that I would like get ready for that level, for that competition. I knew I was athletic enough to hang with those guys, but, just skill wise, getting my skills right and my IQ better. I feel like that was definitely going to be big, but I was just really excited, like seeing that they were in the league like that. It was like, man, like, I was like, oh man, like this is like the type of stuff that like I was like dreaming of.
You've now experienced the portal in two different ways in terms of the eligibility issue, where you right then you had this red shirt, obviously spend a year. There was no way out of that. This time around, we know out the new rules. I mean, I think you still had to go through getting waiver process or whatever, but typically now, like you can transfer, go one time to school, not to sit out. So, what's your thoughts on that? Because I've heard mixed things. Some guys obviously are like, okay, that year was huge for me in terms of development. Others like, I really wish I could just went out there and played. Where do you stand with it? Like, are you in favor of this rule? Do you like the new rule, or do you think it's best for guys to just sit out one year and kind of learn the system and develop?
I feel like personally it did help me. Being able to see the game from a different perspective like that. It wasn't fun. It definitely wasn't fun. I had never like sat out and just watched before. It was definitely tough at times. It was like discouraging at times, just seeing that it wasn't like just knowing that I wouldn't be able to play, like no matter how well I did in workouts or how well like I was developing, I wasn't going to be able to play that whole year. But at the end of the day, I felt like it did help me. I got to see what that level of competition is like, the physicality, the focus that you need night in and night out, and how hard it is to win in that league, and just sitting behind like Josh Reeves and stuff like that, who was at my position, and seeing how he made an impact on the game and stuff like that. I felt like it helped me for sure.
You mentioned once again, it's another NBA guy and Josh. So throughout that year, you obviously aren't playing, but you got to go through scrimmages and practices. You're on the scout team, whatnot, throughout that season. So you got to still go against Josh. You got to go against all these different guys that were on that team too. So how did that better you just going up against a guy like Josh day in, day out?
Man, his defensive instincts are like on another level, honestly. Like I had never seen anything like it before. Like he wasn't like huge. He wasn't like athletically built, but he was still super athletic and he had really fast reflexes. And it was just crazy to see it in person. Like, what was he like, first team all defense or something, or defensive? Mm-hmm. But like seeing that like was really crazy. And just seeing how he made his impact his own way. It was like, how he used his athleticism to his advantage, and things like that. It was crazy to play against him. He's probably like, yeah, he's definitely like probably the best defender that I've played against. So it was crazy playing against him every day. It was frustrating at times, but I feel like it only made me better. It made me stronger and smarter.
So you then go into your redshirt sophomore year, which obviously you go play then. And Josh obviously moves on, goes to the NBA. Rasir, another big time playing that team, obviously moves on for his reason too there. And you head into this next season, and it really was a pretty good overall team. Obviously, you had Lamar out there once again. He's special. He's doing his thing out there in Cleveland now. You got Myron, you got Seth, you got John, you got Jamari, yourself as a 6-man role. Walk us to that team because you guys were pretty good overall, 21-10 record. What was like just getting ready for that season? How prepared were you for that season heading into it after you haven't played for an entire year now?
Yeah, I was really excited going into that year. Just, having to sit out was like not fun. So I was just ready to get out there and really just play with the guys, going through summer sessions and everything like that and going through workouts. I already had like a bond with the guys. So I just really wanted to be able to go out there and play with them. So I was super excited for that. And it was like, yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun that year, just because it was such a dynamic team. I don't know. I feel like we had a deep team. That's what everybody would always say about us. Cause we had like guys 1 through 8 that could like, that could really go, and like guys that could snap like every night. So I felt like we had a really deep team, and yeah, it was just always competitive. It was always competitive in practice, and things like that. So I feel like it was good to see. And it was really good for me to see a team like that, like just seeing how you had to come out every night in order to win games. We still had, our ups and downs. We still took our losses, but, seeing how all the little things really made a difference. Like that was a big thing from that season that I took, just like all the little things really matter. Just from how you come out to practice, from showing up on time to treatment, to all making sure we get, the right stretching in and stuff like that. Just all those little things add up and they all matter in making a team go and a good team like that.
Lamar, like I said, has developed immensely. I think everyone's talking about he's a great player at Penn State, and then didn't get quite the chance at the NBA to start with, but now he's carved his role, got a multi-year contract with Cleveland, doing his thing there. How special was he on a day-to-day practice? Like I said, this is now your third NBA player also going to be around. So what was different about Lamar? Was there a difference in mentality between him, the other two guys, or just what was it like just being around Lamar throughout 2 years then of your career?
Yeah. I mean, the work ethic thing obviously was really consistent between those guys. And just having him, like seeing him do 2-a-days and stuff like that, and seeing how he took care of his body because he's like athletic like that. So, just the things that he did, stretching all the time, or, always being in the training room, getting some type of treatment, making sure that he felt good for the next game so that he could perform. That was really big. And seeing him be a leader, he was really an extension of coach out on the floor at all times. And he always kept a cool head. He got on us when he needed to, but during the game, if we were down or something like that, he would keep our head on straight. He tried not to let us get too high or get too low.
And for you that season, you become one of the top 6 men in the conference, one of the top 6 men in the country, period. That's not easy for a lot of guys to embrace. Like a lot of guys want to be a starter. If they're playing at that level, they don't think they should be off the bench. How did you buy into say, okay, I want to what's best for this team. This is a team that can make the tournament if there was one. I can be this man. I always am a capable starter, but I'm going to embrace the 6-man role, take the best of the scenario. How did you embrace it? And was it even difficult for you throughout the course of the season?
I mean, obviously everybody wants to start. I mean, we had most on that team that really, wanted to start. But I kind of just, it's my first year in the Big Ten. I was blessed to be out there. So it was I just wanted to make the most of all the minutes that I had out there. I knew that when I came in, I just wanted to produce, because being a 6-man, that just meant I didn't start the game. There was plenty of games that I had come in and I was playing really well and I had it rolling. And the coaches had realized that, and I ended up playing 25, 30 minutes. I ended up playing starter minutes anyway. So it was even though I didn't start the game, sometimes I would finish the game. And it was just, it just really made me focus on making an impact, making a positive impact on the team whenever I was out there, no matter what. So it wasn't eventually it really wasn't about starting. It was about producing.
And once again, another new scenario hits you then right after that season. On top of obviously COVID that hit everybody in certain ways, but obviously the coaching change then happened with Coach Chambers. He ends up having to resign. Was that something that shocked you to any degree? I know there was obviously the investigation going on, different stuff happening, but did you still expect him to become your coach for your next year of college basketball? Were you kind of expecting a change? How did you take that all in? Just walk us through that offseason for you.
Yeah, it really came out of nowhere, honestly, because we had heard about it in the summertime. We had heard about the investigation being done. Guys had gotten interviewed by internal affairs and everything. And yeah, we had gone through that during summer session. So it was They interviewed people, they talked about it for a while, and then we heard nothing about it for like a while. So everybody on the team just assumed, okay, it was over. So we start, working out and like getting into like official practices and everything. And everything's like normal to us. So then Chambers, he had made like a leadership council. It was like 5 of us, and like he took us out. He took us out to like dinner, and he was talking to us, and he was just like, he was emphasizing like, yeah, you guys are gonna be, so good this year. And like make sure you guys stay together no matter what. And like he kept saying things like you guys and all that. And I'm like, why do you keep saying like, yeah, we, like us? Like we're like, I don't know what he's like, yeah. So he was talking like that like the whole night. And he had briefly brought up at the end, like, yeah, y'all remember the investigation from the summertime? We were like, oh yeah, like that's done, right? And he was like, yeah, no, they're still kind of on me about it or whatever, blah blah. And we were like, oh really? Oh sheesh. So it was probably the next day we talked to the AD and the assistant AD, and we were like, yeah, should we like be worried about anything? Like, like he's gonna, he's still gonna be our coach, right? And they were like, yeah. They kept it kind of vague, and they just kind of said no official decision like had been made. We didn't, that they were looking into it, but they did want him to stay and still be there with us and stuff like that. And we were like, all right, cool, yeah. And then literally like the next day at practice, he had told us all that he was gonna resign. And it hurt. It definitely hurt. I feel like I really feel for the guys that were there for longer than me, like John and Jamari and like Miles, who had been committed there, since early in high school. Like guys that built up years and years of a relationship with them, because, for him to, be gone like that, so close to the season, and, for people to question his character and like the type of person he was. And like, it really, it was really, sad to see that everything like ended like that, and that the people were viewing him like that. But he was like one of the nicest, like realest guys that I had been around. And like he was a coach like that I hadn't really had before, in terms of like he'd bring players into his office and like just want to talk about like things that weren't basketball. Like, and it took me like a while, especially like during my redshirt year. Like I was like, he'd want to have a meeting, and then he didn't want to talk about basketball. And I was like, I've never had a coach like that, just wanted to talk about what was going on in life and everything like that. Just wanted to really talk to you like as a person. So it was definitely like a more personal relationship with him. And it was really sad to see him go, especially when I had just become like one of the lead guys, one of the captains and stuff. And I was like ready to play for him, ready to do, ready to bring us back to the tournament. That was the goal, since it had been taken from us the previous year.
And we know the backstory. Obviously, it came from the whole Rasir case and all that stuff happened. But like you just said, obviously, it is another side that not a lot of people know about or talk about, because most people obviously just saw what it stemmed from and what kind of resulted in it. So a lot of people obviously have viewed him in that light since that point in time, at least. So obviously with your aspect, like, were you kind of like, obviously, would you have wanted to be your coach? Had all this stuff even happened, like, do you think he still should have been your coach, and would you still have wanted him coaching you that season?
Yeah, I still wanted him to coach me that season for sure because, I mean, yeah, that was our he was like our heart and soul. Like he was the one who was, motivating us. He was the one that kept us focused on playing Penn State basketball.
Mhm.
And it was like, yeah, just knowing that he wasn't like, you know, I can't like I can't deny that he made a mistake, and that he made a mistake that looked really bad when you like explain it like in the media and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was like it just it looked really bad. It looked bad for him. And I see how the school couldn't like tolerate having their program viewed like that or whatever,
Yeah.
but it felt like, as players, we felt like, yeah, it was more about protecting the school's image than us.
Mhm.
Because, when you asked all the players, like, did we want him to stay? Like, obviously we wanted him to stay. And like, how did we feel about him? Like we knew what type of person he was and stuff like that. So it was like, we felt like it was just a decision that the school made for themselves at the end of the day. And especially at the time that they made it, like we felt like they could have done that in the summertime. Like
Yeah.
we felt like they could have done that before official practices started and everything like that. And we kind of felt betrayed that they let it drag out for so long till a couple weeks before the season starts. And now we felt like they did it so we would all kind of be stuck there, essentially, like that we couldn't, do anything. Like, we were just there for the season and we had to, make it work. But yeah, it was definitely hard to see him go because, yeah, we all wanted him to stay. But um yeah, it was just a shame that it ended like that.
Have you been able to have a talk with him since he moved on? Like, have you guys talked at all? And if so, like, how often, how common, what was the talk even like when you guys talked after?
Yeah, I mean, we still talk to this day. Like, he hit me up throughout that season. He
Mhm.
hit me up after after the season. He still hits me up today. After a big game or something, he'll text me and we'll text back and forth and stuff like that. And just like about, what my experience is here. And, he'll tell me that he's proud of me and that, he loves seeing what I'm doing. And he loves seeing that I'm at a place where I can show all of what I can do to the world, really. So I mean, yeah, we've definitely been in contact. He'll hit me up at least like three, like 2-3 times like a month. Like we'll talk. So yeah, it's definitely, it never really stopped, having a good, personal relationship with him. And I feel like that spoke volumes just about, how much he did really care about us and want to see us succeed.
Mhm. I know also you guys, you can't really speak for the other guys that obviously transferred out after last season too, but if he was still the coach today, do you think you and potentially, like I said, you can't speak for them obviously, but potentially Myron would have a better chance of staying. Jamar had a better chance of staying. Like, could you guys have still stayed together for the past last jobs? You still were there, but then this year as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
I had no intentions of leaving, honestly. Before he got fired, him being fired kind of just like threw everything off. Like, especially from my personal plans, like who really wants to transfer schools 2 times, stuff like that. So I mean, it really, you know, it wasn't something that it even crossed my mind before he was like fired. So it was like I feel like we would have, yeah, like we would have had a better chance of staying together for sure. But yeah, it just that whole year ended up just being weird. It was just yeah, it was kind of thrown off. That start at the beginning just kind of yeah, it just kind of threw off kind of the things that we had planned for that year, how we saw it going.
Mm-hmm. Well, you guys, let's kind of go a little bit through that season because it was, in a sense, still your breakout on the national stage to a certain degree. And nowhere near what this year's been, but still was like you have a double-digit season now. You're at a Big Ten school. You're starting in that sense. And Coach Thayer obviously is the intern coach them for the year, and he's still a head coaching caliber coach, as he's obviously now at UMBC. But what was it like? Obviously, the COVID was hard enough by itself, having to deal with that protocols. But then you still, like I said, all the stuff that started from the beginning of the year. Obviously, the locker room had to be a little different, obviously, because of that stuff. So, how did you guys just get through the season with all those variables?
It was a challenge at first. You could just kind of see it in our first couple practices back. Um, we had like come in and you could see guys were just down. I mean, the energy was just kind of low. Um, we were just like we were going through practice and kind of just going through the motions and stuff like that. And it was like guys were kind of like, yeah, guys were just discouraged, honestly. Guys that usually have great energy, like, it really took a toll on Jamari and Johnny. And they were, our leaders and things like that. So it definitely hurt them. It definitely took a toll on them. And we just, eventually we kind of had to meet ourselves and, just come together and commit to each other, commit to playing this season. We just didn't want to think about what would happen after the season, as far as coaching and schools and things like that. So it was really what got us through that season was our love for each other and just wanting to play well for each other and for Coach Chambers. Just knowing that, we still, had the same group of guys that we had so much faith in, so much confidence in just a couple of weeks before. This was just adversity and we would have to get through it together. So it was just coming together and refocusing because it definitely threw us off for a couple weeks, and we just had to buckle down and try to make the most of it and just play for each other.
And what makes your story even more unique is as you've gone through pretty much now, all these different years, you've had a different scenario pretty much for the past 5 years of your life now. And once again, you go on another crazy journey now. And this time around, you graduate from Penn State, you get that done, you declare for the draft, you enter the portal, come back to Penn State, then go back to the portal, then end up at Iowa State now. Take us through this past summer because you've obviously gone through all these past summers before. Now you go through even maybe the most hectic one yet. What was this past summer like that ultimately led you to Iowa State?
So yeah, I feel like when I had gone into the portal the first time, I really just I wanted to see my options and stuff, but I hadn't even met with Coach Shrewsbury, who was coming in, the new hire and things like that. Yeah. And I felt like I said, before Coach Chambers got fired, it was like I had no intentions on leaving. I was like, all right, cool, I want to stay here and things like that. And I felt like, when I had my first meeting like I was already leaning, like when I had my first meeting with Shrewsbury, I was kind of like already leaning towards coming back here. Like I kind of was waiting for him to like convince me to stay. And I just like, I was like, all right, we had talked, we had a good talk. And I was like, all right, cool. Like I'm a, stay here. And then, I was, I had thought about it, and I thought about like being here, like being at Penn State, and, one, thinking about how we were always overlooked as a basketball program. Just like how much of a football school like Penn State was, and like how that one year, that good year that we had, like right before COVID hit, that was kind of viewed as like a one-off thing. We still kind of didn't really get respect within the league, and really in college basketball. We didn't really get the kind of respect. And as far as me staying, my like looking at the kind of role that I wanted to play, like the role that I had played the previous season was like I felt like it was okay. Like I felt like it was cool. I was scoring, rebounding a good amount, and like, playing defense. But the thing is, like, the thing that the coaches were really stressing to me was like I was like a defend and rebound guy, and like the scoring was kind of like a plus.
Mm-hmm.
And like I felt like ever since I stepped on Penn State's campus, I felt like I got a bunch of comparisons to Josh Reeves, and there was nothing wrong with that. Like, obviously, he ended up in the G League and then in the NBA, like in the bubble and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like he did that, like he did it his own way. He had the crazy defensive instincts and all of that. And I felt like I had different, like a different game ultimately than him. We were both athletic, we were both lefties and things like that. But, I feel like they were trying to get me to like play more like Josh, because they saw that where it got him, which was cool. But like, my entire life, I've never really been one to try to copy somebody else to get where I want to go.
Yeah.
And they would always, push that, the defend and rebound thing, which was fine because I knew I had to do that. But like, they kind of wanted to really make that like my role. And not only did the coaches like kind of push that, but then that kind of, rubs off on like the players at, my teammates. My teammates start to see me as, okay, yeah, he's going to like defend and rebound. And if he scores, it's fine. But like, we don't need him to score to win or things like that. And really thinking about that and seeing the guys who were staying, like, yeah, like MJ, the leading scorer, was leaving and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like the guys that were there, I had played with them for years, and I felt like it would kind of be hard to fully be the player that I wanted to be, like, and really show the things that I wanted to show, like all parts of my game. Because, even like, by my history at that school and, my teammates and stuff, maybe it would be harder for them to look at me as a captain or like a leader and like a go-to guy. Because even though I was a part of like the leadership group the previous year, I was more of a lead by example kind of guy. I wasn't really the most vocal and things like that. And I felt like people like they had gotten used to me being like that. So, I felt like, it would be hard to have the full role that I wanted to without like, with that group of guys, in addition to winning in the Big Ten, is really hard. And, we had even less than we had before. Like, we had okay success the previous year with all the guys that we had. So those guys leaving, and we we had no commits, like we had no recruits or anything like that. And it just, sitting back and looking at our potential for the next year and my potential role and things like that, I kind of was like, is that really what I want? I felt like I maybe gotten complacent, like, okay, I'm in the Big Ten. I'm gonna just, I got this role here and it was a blessing, and I'm just gonna, stay here and be content with that. Or, did I want, something else, something more? So like entering back in to the transfer portal, that was just, like I had done before, like it was just betting on myself. It was just having faith in God and really just believing that I could find a place out there that was at a high level, that I could really show everything that I could do. So, I mean, that was really my mindset going into it, just having faith.
And you come down to that Final Four: Arkansas, BYU, Wake Forest, Iowa State. Obviously, we know we end up at, but was there a number 2 school for you? Like, had Iowa State not been here, an option for you, which school do you think you would have chose?
If Iowa State wasn't an option,
Yeah,
I probably would have chose Wake Forest. I really liked the coach there, and I mean, the ACC is, obviously a historic, conference and things like that. And they kind of had the same vision that Iowa State did, as far as, me being able to be, the main piece, and me being able to show everything that I could do on the big stage like that. I probably would have chose Wake Forest. Yeah.
So when you were going through that process, did Alondas already commit? I mean, obviously, I think he probably would have filled the role he's having right now, but was he already committed there? Did he already transfer there beforehand, or were you still there? And then he commit after you and leave and go to Iowa State?
Yeah. So he had already committed. Like, I was really like the last guy committing for, like, all the schools. Like, I would have been like the final piece and everything like that. So but yeah, he was there, and it was like, just really looking at the rosters of all the teams, and looking at Iowa State's, like, I really liked the guys that were going to be around. I felt like their games complemented my games the best. And I really loved, like, the coaching staff and their energy from day one. Really, Iowa State was actually the first Zoom call that I had when I went back in the portal. They were the first ones. Like, they reached out and they got like a Zoom set up like the next day, and it was like great.
Well, let's get into the season, because this has been the year that you've blown up now, and it's super unique because you guys, or at least your team, Iowa State, did not do so well last year. They didn't win a game in conference play. They only won 2 games as a whole. And going into the year, everyone wasn't sure how to judge you guys, obviously. I mean, no one really ranked you high because pretty much the entire roster was brand new. The coaching staff was brand new. Obviously, they weren't very good last year. And you guys are now a ranked team right amongst the mix of one of the best teams in the Big 12, could win the conference. Good, most likely on track to go in the tournament too. Were you guys expecting this type of success this early on? Like, did you guys come together during preseason, training camp, summer workouts and say, okay, we know we can make this work. We could actually be this good of a team?
Yeah. So, I mean, coming in, so many new guys. Like, we all obviously came in and, like, knew what we wanted to get done and knew what we wanted to accomplish. We did have those talks in the summer and in preseason, talking about, like, we have, talent and we have, a system that we felt like could be successful. Obviously we all believed in it, and like everybody believes in it, like every team does every season. But it was crazier to see it really pan out that way. Like when people ask where we should, like, did we expect it? Like, yeah, like because that was the goal. But like for it to actually happen and for us to have, such a great beginning of the season, like, it ended up 12-0 and stuff like that. It was crazy to see it all come together. And it was like encouraging, and it was like affirming that, that we did, all come together for a reason, and that I did make the right decision coming.
How about for yourself personally? Because, like you said, you've now gone from a guy that was a solid starter on a decent team last year to now becoming a guy that's top 25 in the country for the Wooden Award. You're going to most likely on track to becoming an All-American this year. You're going to be all conference this year. Like everything that you probably dreamed of is finally coming this year. Did you think this type of breakout would happen this year for yourself?
I mean, to be recognized like this, it's a blessing. I mean, really, that whole thing kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't have anything else to compare it to. Like I was like voted like one of the most improved guys last year in the Big Ten, but like that was about it. Like, so I knew what I wanted to do coming here. I knew, the things that I wanted to do, the type of impact that I wanted to have on the team and on winning. But like, yeah, to see things like the Wooden Award, preseason, like watch list, like that was crazy to see. Like that was like something that I would have never even like thought of, like, of the 25 players in the nation being considered for that. That was like amazing to see. And just like, winning Newcomer of the weekend and Player of the week and things like that. Like things like that were, I don't know. It felt really good to be recognized, and it felt really good to know that I was making the type of impact that I wanted to. Really, I came in really wanting to win and wanting to show what I could do, and also making all conference was like a goal, like a personal goal of mine. So that was definitely a big thing, because I had realized in the summertime, like just looking back on my like college career, like knowing I was like solid on a decent team and stuff like that, and six man on a really good team. Like as far as personal achievements, like personal awards, like I really had not done anything. Like, kind of motivated me, knowing that I had never been on an all conference team, and knowing that I had never been, selected for an award, or, whether it was six man of the year or anything like that. Like I hadn't accomplished anything. So it was just really, I let that kind of fuel me, and I let that like motivate me. So it's definitely, it's nice to be able to start off, the season like this.
How about Coach TJ? He's someone that has a similar story in a sense to, like, he's been a young up and rising coach. He went to UNLV last year and has been there for a couple of years and wasn't bad by any means, but didn't like make the tournament run. Wasn't spectacular. Wasn't like superstar coach out there. He now comes out here. He's unlocked and he's become the coach of this team now. What's so special about Coach TJ and just what's it like playing for him now?
He is like, he's like a straight up guy. Honestly, like he was like completely honest about everything, from the moment that I spoke to him. And it was just everything that we had talked about. Like he asked me, what my goals were and what I wanted to be able to do at a school and the type of impact that I wanted to make. And he told me the vision that he had, and he told me like he showed me the guys that were committed. He showed me the system that they would put in place and how that would benefit me. So it was him showing me, the potential of everything that it could be, as well as like as a person. Like I really liked his intensity. Like he reminded me a lot of my high school coach, my Archbishop Ryan coach, Joseph Glinsky. Like not he's not really like when you first meet him, he's kind of, quieter, he's calmer. But when he talks about basketball and when he, you can see in his eyes, like he has this quiet intensity about him and this seriousness about doing what needs to be done to win. And like, I really enjoyed that, like about him when I was talking to him. And I was like, nobody, like we were picked last in the league. Like nobody believes in this vision, but like he does. And like, that's how it was in high school. Like when Joe got hired my junior year of high school, like he came in and he was like, we're making it to the Palestra and we're making it to states. And everybody looked at him crazy because like, we've never done that. And I'm like, bro, we're Archbishop Ryan. We're not that, like, we're not good like that. Like, that's just not what historically has been. But he didn't care. And he had a vision and he had a plan and he just was dead set on executing it and it worked. So like, I really enjoyed how similar TJ was to him. And he just knew what he wanted to get done and we do it.
All right, so you guys got about half the season left, maybe a little left, maybe a little less right at the middle, whatever it is. What do you personally want to get done? What do you guys want to get done as a team? Like, what's the goals for this team going for, and what do you guys want to accomplish for the next half the season?
Yeah, I mean, really just going out there and staying true to us, staying true to our identity. I feel like, starting off 12-0, I feel like a lot of teams that don't experience losses early, sometimes when they lose, they kind of are scrambling and they kind of change their identity and they change what they do and they change their core principles. But I feel like that's our main focus is just, no matter what, like through the ups and the downs, like no matter how many, wins and losses, we have to stick to what got us, what we have had success doing and just refine it and be more disciplined doing it. Really, we want to get as many wins as we can in this crazy conference. We want to be as high as we can in the standings going into the Big 12 tournament. And then we want to make a run and we want to win that. And then after that, with wins in this conference comes the NCAA tournament. But yeah, our focus like right now is winning the league first and foremost. So that's what we're coming out. That's what we're focused on. So for sure.
After this season, there will be an option on the table for yourself because of COVID stuff going on, because you redshirt early in your career. There is certainly a chance you could still come back and build a legacy even more at Iowa State. Obviously, with the season you're having, NBA or pro opportunities will be available most likely to you as well. But is coming back even an option on the table? Like, is that something fans could have any sort of excitement for? Is there a chance you could come back for a super senior year?
Yeah, there's definitely like that option. Like I'm really keeping all options open because like during the season, I really like to just focus on playing. And I really don't like to get in my head about all that other stuff. I feel like that's a decision that I'll like talk to my family about and decide when the time comes. But yeah, it's definitely an option, coming back and continuing to develop and continuing to build my relationship with my teammates and the coaches and make a run and everything. So that's definitely an option.
I know the end goal for you, I can imagine at least, is playing at the NBA, playing professional with this game. So when that time does come and you feel like if it is after this year, after even a super senior, like whenever that time does come, you say, okay, it's my time to go pro now. What are you looking for in yourself? Like, do you feel like you could be ready right now to go play? Are there certain things you're still trying to improve on, work on, or how do you kind of value that game, that kind of that knowledge of where you're going to have to get to be an NBA player in your mind?
I feel like I'd have to improve on, like, obviously my shot, just with the way that the league is like trending, like, small ball, positionless basketball,
Mm-hmm.
um, good, but like they also want guys that can shoot. 3-and-D is a thing that's getting a lot of people paid right now. But yeah, just that, and like overall IQ of the game. Just watching NBA games now from a different perspective, like they're not always moving really fast, or they're not always like playing really intensely, but looking at it, the reads that everybody's making, and like the high level that they're playing at, like it's like more cerebral. So being able to play like that, instead of relying on athleticism or relying on things like that. So I definitely want to work on, like, in understanding the game on that level for sure.
Absolutely, man. Well, a couple more things before I let you go. One thing is NIL has now been in effect, and you've been one of the more organized, more put together, I should say, in terms of this whole NIL stuff with your branding and all. Obviously, I know you're repping the shirt right now, the hoodie. Take us to that aspect a little bit about, like, just explaining your branding, your clothing lines, everything that's coming along with the NIL stuff. Kind of take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so I really credit my stepdad a lot for helping me be organized on that NIL front, because I remember when they first passed that ruling that players could do NIL stuff. I actually was not very excited, because, like, man, I just want to play basketball. Like, I really don't want to have to worry about like brands and talking to all these different people and stuff like that, because I really just wanted to focus on basketball. But it was like he's really helped me a lot of, um like, he made my website, and he got the production for all my merchandise and things like that. And when new people come around for opportunities, and then they have like contracts and things like that, he's really looking through them and making sure that they're okay, and then make sure that they're fair and things like that. So like those are, he's really been big in helping me stay organized and allowing me to, focus more on basketball, really, and just making sure that things aren't getting in the way of my ultimate goals.
I also know that you obviously want to create a legacy. I think every player wants to be remembered for something. So when that day does come, you decide to step away from this game down the road. What do you want to leave this game being remembered for? For what you achieved both on and off the court? Like, what do you want to be remembered for?
Um, I want to be remembered as like a dude that always was doing whatever it took to win. Um, like a dude who was a dog, a dude that really didn't care what other people thought of him, didn't care what the ranking of the person or the team that was in front of him. Um, and just like, yeah, really like a guy that you would take into war with you. I want to be a guy that people are like, yeah, I'll go to war with Zay. Like, I know what he's going to do. I know what he's going to bring. Like, he's not backing down ever. So I had that, and a dude that, yeah, did that and won, did what I did and did it well.
Absolutely. Well, the final thing I want to get into with you is talking about your faith a little bit more in depth. And I know we've brought that up a few different times, and being a believer, and I know you being a believer, you're outspoken too about it. So kind of take us through your faith a little bit, though. Like, how has God helped get you to the point that you're at today?
Oh man, like, my story is so all over the place. Like, in my mind, it can't be anything but God, really. I feel like just from the start, like just having faith in my life has helped me get through a lot of tough times. It just, with my grandma being a preacher, and my mom being really strong in her faith, my stepfather as well. Just knowing that, if you pray all the time and just use discernment and really, look for the ways that God reveals himself to you in your life is big. It's not like how it is in the Bible where you just hear a voice, from above and things like that. He comes to us in dreams and in our sometimes in our thoughts and in our feelings, like our gut feelings, and just continuing to have faith in God and like where he has led me. Like he's been, with me when I'm betting on myself. When I decommitted from NJIT and then Bonaventure and then ended up going to Penn State and then now here, just the way that, I've been praying for an opportunity like this and moments like these. It really enforced, you have not because you ask not. And also, it enforced like it's all about God's timing, really, all the success and all the recognition. Like this is what every freshman in college, like you come in and you're like, man, I want to do this and that. And like, everybody wants to be a one and done and everybody wants to, immediately, have the kind of success. And like, yeah, it's just like really been taught me to be patient and, trusting God and what's for me will be for me. But, I just got to do my part. I got to hold up my end of the bargain, continue to stay faithful, continue to work, and just continue to trust in him.
And you kind of mentioned too, like the way that your your story has kind of shown God has been incredible. And that's why I was like, wow, I like doing the whole long sit down interview with guys about this story, because seeing the way God works is incredible, especially in stories like yours. And out of everything that you've seen, like as everything we've talked about throughout your whole journey, is there one moment you could pinpoint and say, okay, that was the moment I first started relying on God, or maybe that was even the moment that I relied on him the most?
I feel like probably high school, like senior year when I decommitted from NJIT, like it was just kind of like going through not having offers and going through like the doubt that I was having in myself. Really trusting that was a smart move. Like I could have like decommitted and either ended up at the same level or ended up like not getting offers. Like I could have ended up like being like, oh man, that was dumb. I should have just, kept what I had, or I should have just, stayed where I was at. And I feel like that was like really the first big step, like basketball wise, that really started my whole, just like faith in betting on myself, and that things do work out, and that that he does reward hard work and faith. So
And the verse that you have in your bio is Philippians 4:13, and that's a pretty well-known verse, especially for those that are believers. So take us to that, because I'm assuming that's obviously probably your favorite verse, but what does that verse mean to you, and why is that the one that you decided to put in your bios?
It's in my bio. I have it tatted on my shoulder. It's definitely my favorite verse. Just because like I really believe it to be true. Like that with God, that there is no there is no dream too big or too far-fetched. My parents and my grandma especially would talk to me about it all the time. Like just ask God for what you want, and just trust in Him. So it's like, not having any doubt. Like, don't put any limits on God. My grandma used to say, just like, don't put any limits on what He can do for you and in your life. And I've always stuck to that. And I've always kept, my same dreams, even when I didn't fully believe in myself. I just kind of prayed for the confidence. I prayed for, just the mental strength to get through, the hard times and in my career and everything like that, and in my life, really. But yeah, just knowing that, you can accomplish all things. They may not happen in the time that you wanted to, but, as His own timing. So.
Absolutely, man. One final thing for you. Give Iowa State fans in the country your 3 biggest goals they have set the remainder of this season.
I want to be all Big 12. I want to make all Big 12. Mm-hmm. I want to win the league, whether it's regular season or whether it's the tournament. I want to win a title in the Big 12, and then I want to make a run in the NCAA tournament. Like, I don't want to get bounced in the first round. Like, I want to make it, and I want to, give the fans something to cheer about. And I want to give our group of guys something that we could look back and be proud of. Look what we did. Like, look what we turned the program back into. We brought the program that had 2 bad years, and just, we brought it back to its prominence that it had in years before. And we brought it back to its rightful place in college basketball.
Absolutely, man. Well, best of luck the remainder of the season. I'm excited to see what you guys can do, how far you guys can go. And I definitely appreciate you taking time to come on today, man, and keep being the light.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. You're always welcome on, man. God bless.
Yes, sir. God bless, man.